you have this blog. It's called The
Yeah.
Process of Being, and it's awesome. And when we both read one particular post called "What Do I Really Want," you had acknowledged that your dad has Alzheimer's, and this caused you to reevaluate how you're spending your time, and yeah, reevaluate also what's important to you. What really is a sign of this disease, and then when you're dead, first develop them.
I can't speak with authority on like what the official early signs are, but for my dad, I think we started to notice it probably like 7 years ago. He was a physician. And so as a physician, every 10 years, you have to get board certified again. You have to redo your boards. And so when he had turned 60, he was going through that process again, because I think he was looking to retire at 65. So he needed to get recertified for a couple more years. And so in the process of studying, he took the boards and he failed it. And then which again, isn't like that uncommon. So he took it again and he failed it again. And so it just became this weight over his head that he just like would study. And no matter how hard he was studying, he just kept failing the boards. And so that initially we just thought, oh, maybe he's just getting older, or it's just heart's not in it anymore. Maybe he wants to retire early. So that really, I think, started it. And then there were certain other glimmers. And I think he also noticed it himself as a physician, because he was a neonatologist. So he's dealing with premature babies, very fragile. He worked with a hospital to say, like, maybe we need to do early retirement, because he was worried about making a wrong decision that would impact the lives of a child, one of his patients. So he recognized that, he saw that. And so, that to me, I think was also just while heartbreaking, because he loved what he did, but his ability to be aware that something wasn't right and he didn't want to jeopardize his patients, I think showed just a level of maturity and care about what he did and who he was. And so I think that was wonderful of him to do, but that was kind of the beginning of it.
What has this process been like for your dad, and how have you and your family dealt with seeing his transition, with dealing with this condition?
I mean, it hasn't been easy. It's hard to see, especially my father. I mean, I've had a great relationship with him, and I've, he's been just a hero of mine, and someone I've always looked up to. Brilliant man, loved life, really just made the most of it. And I don't think that spirit is gone, but I think the hard part is marrying the idea that I have in my head of who he is with who he actually is right now, right? And so he's not the same person that I've known all my life, because he just can't express himself the same way. He's not able to function in the same way. So it is a process of kind of rethinking, the idea of my dad. What does that mean, right? And just because he has Alzheimer's doesn't mean that should change. But I also need to I accept it, right, and learn to also deal with it. And I think from just overall perspective, as it goes, I even think of myself, like if I were to get Alzheimer's, I would imagine I have a period where I would be very, very angry and upset, and I would not be complying with my caretaker or whatnot. I would just be very upset. But I just, like, my dad he's just been so gracious in how he's dealt with it. To see someone going through this that's kind of accepted it because he has to, and to the extent that I think he's accepted it now, and to still maintain that grace has just been a beautiful lesson, bittersweet, of course. Brene Brown's Dare to Lead podcast, I think, or Unlocking Awesome, one of them. I don't know. She had a physician, I think he's a geriatric neurologist or something. He wrote a book and talked about Alzheimer's, and really the reframing of Alzheimer's creates two patients, and it's the actual patient, it's the caregiver. And it's helped me rethink also just about like my mom and what she's going through, and making sure that myself and my brother and sister were there to support her and help her through this. So it's not a single journey for her, but it's a thing that we deal with as a family.
It seems as though your family is embracing, the best parts of their humanity to help you all and your dad get through this as best as possible. And I think that that's the flip side of disability in a weird way, is that it can bring out these wonderful things in ourselves that have always been there perhaps, but it takes something like this to bring it out and be practiced on a day-to-day basis. And I could tell even from your blog post that your dad is a very loving man, and he had a wonderful influence on you also. That's awesome.
I think it's teaching me the reality that you can't gain something without losing something, right? We're gaining this opportunity to be closer as a family, but also at the loss of my father and his Alzheimer's.
What do you believe that people are afraid of disability?
For myself, I mean, I think it comes down to with just the loss of control. When you think of a disability, you just imagine you're losing something, right? You're losing either your ability to think properly, your actual physical ability, some sort of mental capability. You're losing something. And I think anytime that there's a loss, there's always going to be a grieving process. There's always going to be that fear, right? Like I don't want to lose my dad, but I fear losing my dad, right? I don't want to lose my family, but I fear losing them, right? And so just like with abilities, I don't want to lose them and I fear them. My current state is all I know. And so I don't know what life looks like with a disability until I'm in it. The reality is we also, I think, underestimate our resiliency and our ability to adapt, right? I think just like, I think even of just the what is the concept of hedonistic adaptation, right? You get something positive, a raise, or you fall in love, right? You have this spike, but then you kind of go back to your normal state, right? It doesn't necessarily stay there. We revert back. So we're always searching for something new to take us up, but we always kind of revert back to our normal. So I think similarly with a disability, you're going in the opposite direction, but at the same time, at some point, it's going to be your new normal and you're going to have to adjust to it. Hopefully, right? I'm sure there's instances where you may go into some sort of a depressive state just because you're having difficulty dealing with it. But I think imagining that situation is difficult because we just have no idea what it's like. And so that complete uncertainty, I think, is where a lot of the fear comes from.
It makes sense. This disease runs on both sides of your family, and there is the possibility of you one day acquiring it. So how have you learned to focus on the present moment in your life thus far?
Yeah, it's $1 million question. I still struggle with it. There's a couple things that really helped me and kind of remind me to focus on the present. I started meditating about 6 years ago. And so I wouldn't say daily, but probably 4 to 5 times a week I meditate. And it's only like 10 minutes, but even just those 10 minutes really have helped me to kind of pause and learn to recognize when my thoughts are just running 100 miles an hour and say like, time out. What I need to let's just focus on acknowledging these feelings. I am feeling X right now, right? I am feeling angry. I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling happy. And that takes you out of the loop that your brain kind of goes in. So meditation is a big part of it for me. I would say honestly too, one of the kind of coupled with that is Stoicism. It's just been for me, I think out of all the philosophies has just been one of the best philosophies because it's so practical. Being in the present is just about recognizing emotions and learning to control what you can control. And there's just a lot that you can't control. And so I think it's kind of giving up to that notion and being okay with that. One of the exercises that I've done or I tend to do that I got from Stoicism was negative visualization. And so it was, I think, Sam Harris, because I use his app to meditate, his Waking Up app. And I'm a big fan of Sam Harris. In one of his contents or discussions, he talks about, like, imagine you're sitting in the doctor's office and you've just been told you have a horrible diagnosis, right? It's terminal, you have cancer, you have whatever, right? Imagine that you're in that moment, and then imagine what that moment feels like. And then think about how much you would wish that you could go back to when you didn't have that news, and how much more you would pay attention, how much more you would actually enjoy life, right? And so I think part of it, it's just a great mind exercise, because it forces you to really deal with, I think, just the reality of death. I mean, we're all going to die. And that's part of the allure of Stoicism, is it does bring kind of death in the forefront, not as this is depressing, but like, this is a reality, and we only get one shot, and we have to learn to deal with it. When I am stressed out or I'm in the moment, it is kind of thinking about, like, well, what if it was worse, right? This moment that I'm in right now would not be so bad. I would be like wishing that I could go back to this moment where the only stressors I have are work or something related. Just the combination of meditation, Stoicism, just thinking about death, I think really focuses you to really figure out what's important.
Well, thank you so much, Diego. Really,
Yeah,
for talking with us about this very personal topic, and we really have learned so much from you and your blog. It's awesome. Everyone should check it out. We love it, and we wish you and your family all the best. Lots of emotional strength.
I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate it. This has been great as well for me. It's just an opportunity to tell my dad's story. The joy and the place of generosity that you both come with telling your story and kind of removing the veil around disabilities, I think is incredibly generous and wonderful. So thank you for sharing your journey as well.
Oh, thanks, Diego. That means
It
Thank you so much for watching another episode of the Ginchiest, where we talk about our disability experiences and what they teach us about being human.
Subscribe. I dare you.
Oh my God, you ruined it.